Well, hey again, Jasmine, I've got something for you. Baptism certificate and Bible. Congrats. It's so exciting. We started off on an adventure a couple of years ago about the Vision 2025 campaign of new families and new people serving in leadership and the financial capacity for the building and baptisms, 25 baptisms a year, and it has been an exciting journey to see what God has done. Last year, to date, we had 0 baptisms and still ended up with 26. We've had 7 this year, and it's exciting to be a part of that. Also, as we kind of come out of the winter months, one of the things that we usually see is a little bit of an increase in attendance as we're doing so. And we've got over 230 people at Connection today. So what's that do for Easter, right? What's that do for Easter as we get closer to that? So I would just want to encourage you, again, is there somebody in your life that is far from God that needs to know about His love and His mercy? Is there somebody that needs to find hope and purpose that maybe God has already put in your life that you would be able to invite back and to be a part of that? You may have seen that we've got a couple of new things in the hallway just outside of here, and it really exists in 2 capacities. And on Palm Sunday, this is my hope that we would begin to fill in those boards. And what it's going to say at the top is every one matters, right? Jesus left the 99 to find the one. And that's the commission and the command for us, that we leave the 99 to find the one, because every one matters. And so there is a baptism side that says made new, and you're going to have that opportunity on Palm Sunday, which I'm calling signing day. So anybody who has been baptized at Connection Christian Church, you can sign that and put the date of your baptism under there, and that's going to be just an ongoing tally of all the baptisms that have taken place here. And on the other side, what we're going to do is write the name of someone in our life that is far from God, that we're praying for, that we're invited. Just put them by first name, right? We don't want to just throw out a bunch of people's names and everybody's like, oh, that person right there. No, just jot a first name. And then what I'm hoping is that when that person comes in, we can circle that name, or they can circle that name, because they matter, right? They are somebody's one, and they matter. And I want us to see, what is happening as we take seriously the commission of God to seek and to save the lost. It's going to be pretty exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. Hey, we are in a survey of the Old Testament this year, and we've kind of gotten up to the book of Kings. And it's not that we haven't seen kings already. We have. We've seen King Saul and King David, and last week we talked about in the first section of Kings, Solomon. But Solomon also wrote some other books and was written about. And so we're going to talk about one of those today in Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is a book that we don't really know if it was written by Solomon, but it definitely talked about some of Solomon's accolades. And this is on page 553 in the Black Bibles we provide. If you want to follow along there, you definitely can. But as you're getting there, I just want to ask you, it's a question, but I don't know if it's really that deep. If somebody said, hey, would you like to go for a run? How many of you would be like, yes, I like to run? How many of you would be like, heck no? Right? There's a few of those. Right? And there's probably a few people in between that are like, you know what? How far are we going? Like, are we talking a block? Because I can maybe pull out a block. Are we talking about a couple miles? I'm going to have to think about that. Right? And the question that I always have when somebody says, for instance, my wife, like, hey, do you want to go for a walk? It's always been, well, where are we going? And she would say something like, well, we're just going to kind of go around the neighborhood and come back here. To which I'm like, but I'm already here. So what's the purpose? Right? Why am I doing this? Why hop on a treadmill so that I can run and always be at the same place I was? I lacked purpose. Well, over the last few years of my life, I've been on a different kind of journey Both of my parents are diabetic, and I am pre-diabetic, which basically means that I am in trajectory to join them. And I have found purpose in walking and exercising and keeping the numbers under control. And some of you also understand the challenges of middle age and the things that come along with that. But not everything, right, has a purpose and a meaning. And Ecclesiastes definitely comes across that way. Matter of fact, if you open it up in the New International Version, and I have this part memorized, it starts off with something like this: meaningless, meaningless. Everything is utterly meaningless. Yes. The word of encouragement from the Lord for you today: meaningless, meaningless. Everything is meaningless. The English Standard Version, which we have here, it actually uses a different word. It says vanity, right? It's empty. It looks like something, but it's empty. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities. All is a vanity. Well, neither one of those words really kind of captures the Hebrew word that's used there. There are a couple of different connotations for this, like a vapor, like it's here 1 minute and then it's gone. Right? It's fleeting. It's always moving. Right? Or smoke. Smoke with the idea of like you can see it, and if you can see it, you ought to be able to grab it, to feel it, but you can't. It's nothing. It's empty. It's void. Or smoke with the idea of like when you get caught in it, it's very disorienting. It looks like it'd be something, and this nothing actually holds you back from experiencing something greater. And I don't know exactly how you capture that concept in the English language without really diving in and explaining it. But it could probably be explained a little bit in verse 14 of chapter 1, where it says, I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is a vanity and a striving after the wind. Solomon had so much stuff, so much knowledge, so many experiences in his life, and he says, I have seen everything. And it's all empty. It's all meaningless. All a vanity. Like chasing the wind. And in Nebraska, the wind moves pretty quick. Right? But it's there and it's gone. And I think that we can see in Ecclesiastes, even within chapters 1 and 2, 3 things that Solomon is kind of chasing after. The first one is found in chapter 1, verse 16, where it says, I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who were over Jerusalem before me. And my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. Right? I am intelligent. I'm wise, so much so that I surpass everybody that came before me. And we still sometimes strive for knowledge. If I can just know more, right? If I can get the right degrees or have the right experiences, then maybe I could find meaning and find purpose in that. The second one is found in chapter 2, verse 4. I made great works. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks and planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the forest of growing trees. Like all of this stuff, I made it, I had it, I built it. And maybe there's somebody here that's like, man, if I can just work harder, if I can attain more in my work, if other people would realize how hard of a worker I am or how great of a craftsman I am, then maybe in that I can find purpose and meaning. And then the third one is found in chapter 2, verse 7. I bought male and female slaves and had slaves who were born in my house. I had also great possessions of herds and flocks, and more than any who had been before me in Jerusalem. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the treasure of kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, the delight of the sons of man. Right? I had all of these possessions, all of this stuff. And within that kind of fits this idea of entertainment, right? I had the best of the musicians. I had slaves, people who worked for me. I had women at my disposal. I had more money than you could ever imagine, more than anybody before me. And so maybe we think that if I can just achieve more and have more cash, then maybe I'm going to find purpose and meaning in my life. And I don't know if you are on the same plateau as I am, but one of my greatest fears is insignificance. And I think maybe it comes from some of my childhood, but maybe it's just a human condition too. Right? That I'm never going to be good enough, amount to anything, that my life won't really matter. And so there's a drive and a hunger to be significant. Maybe to bring something to the table when a discussion is happening. And the opposite is also true. If I don't feel like I've got anything to contribute, I kind of just back away to the corner. Because I don't want to be viewed as insignificant or irrelevant in the situation. Or maybe if I can just build some stuff, do some stuff, work harder. Right? In my line of work, it could be like, hey, we could build a bigger building and attract more people and have more baptisms. And that could be the very thing that I'm hungering for. And those things can maybe glorify God, but they can also be very self-serving. But maybe in your life, like if I can just get another promotion, if I could be the manager or the lead, or if I could become the owner, or I can build and build and build my empire, then people are going to see. And I'm going to be a person of significance, right? That I could maybe go after these things that are going to entertain me, that are going to fulfill me, that are going to somehow bring me joy in my life. Or if I can just have more money to buy more stuff, to do more things, then I'm going to finally have arrived and be able to accomplish something with my life. And all of this is a quest for significance, a quest for meaning in our life. And my guess is probably around the room and those watching online, we're all kind of on this journey of finding purpose and meaning in our life. And probably just like Solomon, we've chased these things. Right? We wanted the stuff and the money, or the work, the success, or even the knowledge and experience. But they all kind of leave us coming up empty. He says in chapter 2, verse 14, the wise person has his eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. And yet I perceive that the same event happens to all of them. Regardless of whether you're super smart or you're not, you still go through stuff. You still go through great joys, and you still go through great challenges, and it doesn't really matter if you're wise or you're not wise, you still go through that. And so how does wisdom actually prevent me from going through difficult times? Because I can be super intelligent and still battle cancer. I can be super intelligent and still lose a loved one. There are so many things that we can battle, and it really doesn't seem to matter. How wise were you? Chapter 2, verse 18. I hated all my toil in which I have toiled under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me. Right? I can work hard. I can achieve more, do more. For what? Because I can't take it with me. And it's all going to get left behind me. And so how do I find purpose and meaning in that? I've attained all this stuff, but no lasting value. Chapter 2, verse 23. For all his days are full of sorrow, and his work is a vexation. Even in the night, his heart does not rest. This also is a vanity. Right? I can chase after all this stuff, but my heart is never satisfied. My hunger is never quenched. There's nothing that really brings me true peace and purpose and meaning in my life. And he goes on to say again and again, it's all a vanity. Matter of fact, he kind of summarizes the whole thing just a few verses before, chapter 2, verse 9. So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me, and whatever my eyes desired I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all of my toil, right? It looks good. It was good. It was fun. It was enjoyable. For my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for my toil. Then I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil that I had experienced in doing it. And behold, all was a vanity and a striving after the wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. I chased all these things, and all I had was what was left after doing them, or the process of doing them. But at the end of the matter, it was empty. There was nothing. And maybe that's where your journey has led you. You hunger for more. You are trying to find a purpose and a meaning. You want a life of significance, and you've been chasing after these things in life that maybe would answer that. That if I can achieve enough, know enough, do enough, then somehow I will matter. Then somehow others will recognize my significance and my value. But my thought is, we probably all, as we chase these things, are never quite going to achieve the level of success that Solomon had. That he had so much money that silver was like stones. That his porcelain throne was actually made of gold. Right? You're never going to make that much money. And yet it's Solomon who made that much money who said it was empty. Right? You're probably never going to be as wise as Solomon, who was well regarded by many. Right? Probably the wisest guy ever. But somehow you think if you can just get that extra degree or have that level of expertise that it's going to matter. But he says it's empty. Right? You're going to chase after material possessions and money. Nothing. You're going to build, and you're going to want a vacation home, and probably another vacation home, and maybe a boat at each, right? Whatever you're thinking that life would need materially, and you're never going to come close to what Solomon had, and it's empty. This is the purpose of Ecclesiastes. The purpose of Ecclesiastes is for us to look on the life of Solomon and go, man, this guy had it all. What was his excuse? If I could just be more, do more, have more, then I'm going to find meaning and purpose for my life. But you won't. What you find is meaningless. Meaningless. Everything is utterly meaningless. When life comes to an end, as one guy said, when the game is over, it all goes back in the box. Right? You can't take it with you. So where do we find this purpose and this meaning in life, if not in these things? Well, let's go first to chapter 4, verse 4. I want us to understand that our appetites are never satisfied. It says in chapter 4, verse 4, "Then I saw that all toil and skill and work come from the man's envy of his neighbor. This is also a vanity and a striving after the wind. I want more because I see more, and I need to have more, and I need to at least be validated by having as much as the guys around me so that I won't feel like I'm getting left in the dust. I need to have at least that level of significance. But as we strive to keep up, it's also empty." He says in verse 6, "Better is a handful of quietness than 2 hands full of toil and a striving after the wind." It's better to be content with what you've got than to continue to chase after more, to work harder to get more, to work harder to get more, because more is never enough. It's like chasing the wind. And then probably the most popular section of Scripture in Ecclesiastes is found in chapter 4, verse 9, where it says, "Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to help lift him up. Again, if two lie down, they keep warm. How can one keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him. A threefold cord is not quickly broken." The idea is that oftentimes we mortgage our families and our friends, our relationships, just to get ahead. We mortgage that time, that energy, that compassion to do those things that are meaningless, and in the process lose the relationships that we think that they're going to value us more when we achieve more and do more and have more. And we get to the end and we think, oh man, we're going to be able to enjoy this, and you've already lost the relationships that really matter. So how do we find purpose and meaning when it seems like we're always hungry for more? Chapter 5, verse 10, "He who loves money will never be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income." Right? There's never enough. If I could just bet on the right horse, play the right slot machine, scratch off the right ticket, pick the right numbers, then my life will be complete. Right? If I can just get a job that pays enough, then I'll be okay. But it's never enough. Chapter 6, verse 7, "All the toil of man is for his mouth, and yet his appetite is never satisfied." We work hard so that we can have more, but we just devour it. And there's always a need, a drive, a hunger for more. It's never enough. That's difficult to fathom, isn't it? Well, throughout Ecclesiastes, I think we see three really kind of unsettling realities. The first reality is of time. When I went to a graduation one time, the speaker says, life is but a breath. The meaning behind that is really that if we could fathom the time that is in existence, we are but a moment on that timeline. We come and we go. The earth was before us, the earth will be after us. The challenges before us will be the challenges after us. The joys before us will be the joys after us. We are but a breath on that timeline. That's a hard reality in life. To think that I really could be that insignificant. The second is this, death. One day your breath will run out. We all die. The rich and the poor, the slave and the free, the man and the woman, we all die. The wise and the unwise. Death comes to everyone. And that stuff that you treasure, that you find valuable, you can't take it with you. You leave it behind for others. Chances are they probably won't even enjoy it as much as you thought they would. And the third unsettling reality is the randomness of life. The randomness of life. Right? Good things happen to good people. Good things also happen to bad people. Bad things happen to bad people. Bad things also happen to good people. And I can't control that. Don't you want to control that? Don't you want to think that if I can just do A, B, and C, my life will make sense and I will have control? But all of that is a mirage. The idea of being able to control my world is really out of my control. And if we look at life in those perspectives, right, that it's but a breath, that I will eventually die, and that everything is kind of random, it can be very disheartening. Chances are you could probably have the attitude of Solomon. Meaningless. Right? It's all meaningless. And there's a couple of options that I want to suggest for you. The first one is found in chapter 9, verse 7. Go, eat your bread with joy, and drink your wine with a merry heart. For God has already approved what you do. Let your garments be always white. Let not oil be lacking on your head. Enjoy life with the wife whom you love, all the days of your vain life that He has given you under the sun, because that is your portion in life, and in your toil at which you toil under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. For there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol, the place of the dead, to which you are going. Right? The first option is an attitude that is very pervasive in our community and in our world today. Right? There is nothing more than this life. And so I need to enjoy this life to the fullest. I need to buy more stuff, enjoy more stuff, have fun, because when it's all over, it's done. And so I'll just enjoy that. And there's one section of Scripture there that stood out to me. And it says in verse 9, enjoy life with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life. Man. We have a world of people who get caught in this reality that there's nothing more after I die. No purpose, no meaning, no hope. My guess is they're in this room watching online. No purpose, no hope, no meaning. And I want to guide you to a few passages in the New Testament, and then we'll come back to Ecclesiastes. Matthew chapter 6. And Jesus is presenting what's known as the Sermon on the Mount, the longest recorded message that He gave. In chapter 6, He says, do not store up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, but store up for yourself treasures in heaven. And directly following that, and I think it's no coincidence, He says, do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will have enough worries of its own. Right? We trust God. We trust God to provide. So store up yourself treasures in heaven. Colossians chapter 3, as Paul is writing to the church in Colossae, set your mind on things that are above and not on earthly things. In Philippians, as Paul is writing to the church in Philippi, he says, I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, in plenty or in want. Right? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. This is a passage that's all about being content with what you have because your value, your purpose, your identity, your resources all come from God. This is not a new thing. And so that takes me to chapter 12 in Ecclesiastes. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth. Before the evil days come and the years draw near, of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened and the clouds return after the rain. In the day when the keepers of the house tremble and the strong men are bent and the grinders cease because they are few, and those who look through the windows are dimmed and the doors of the streets are shut, when the sound of the grinding is low and one rises up at the sound of a bird and all the daughters of song are brought low. They are afraid also of what is high, and terrors are in the way. The almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper drags itself along, and desire fails, because man is going to his eternal home, and the mourners go about the streets. Before the silver cord is snapped, and the golden bowl is broken, and the pitcher is shattered at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern, and the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Vanity, vanity, says the preacher. All is a vanity. Right before your life drags on, before everything you purchased is broken, before every hope that you have is dashed, return to your Creator. Find your purpose and your meaning and your hope from the God who made you. The author of this says in verse 13, the end of the matter. All has been heard. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Rick Warren, former pastor at Saddleback Church in California, penned a very popular book called The Purpose-Driven Life. In it, he says that the purpose that we have is to worship God. According to Ecclesiastes, the purpose is not far off. Fear God, or I would say it another way, trust God, and obey His commands. Do what He says. Trust God and do what He says. Find your identity, your purpose, and your meaning from who God created you to be, and do what He says. He will bring every deed into judgment and every secret thing, whether good or evil. God will bring the judgment. And so that's our purpose, to fear God and obey His commands. It's nothing new, right? We've been talking about this throughout the whole Old Testament. Fear God and do what He says. It's in the New Testament. Here's 3 key questions to help you process this. In the past, I've asked some pretty deep questions. I would admit these are fairly shallow questions, but I don't think they're less piercing. Number 1 is, are you struggling to find purpose and meaning in your life? Are you struggling to find purpose and meaning in your life? Question 2, where are you looking? Where are you looking for that purpose and that meaning? And question 3, how's that going for you? How's that going for you? My guess is it's pretty empty. You're not going to find a whole lot of value there. And so here's my challenge. Remember the Creator. Set your mind on things that are above. Store up treasures in heaven. And learn to be content in any and every situation, because everything we have is a blessing and a gift from God. And we need to seek Him, seek His glory, and understand that our purpose and meaning come directly from Him, not the stuff. Will you join me in prayer? Father, I know that there are many who are hearing this message from your word in Ecclesiastes that feel pretty cut right now, that feel very challenged because they have been chasing after things that they thought would bring value, and somehow thought if they just got more, it would answer that question. But we can know from the life of Solomon that more isn't the answer, that more is never enough, and that our value, our purpose comes from you. So, Father, for those in the room that maybe don't have a relationship with you, they don't know you as the giver of life and the Redeemer, Father, that they would come to know you, that they would come to know that they are valued and significant. As your word says, that He gave His one and only Son, that whoever believes in Him. We have so much value that you gave your best to meet us in our brokenness, our hurt, our longings, and to bring us hope, to bring us peace, to restore our souls, and as a result, to restore marriages, other relationships, to impact generations and workplaces and communities. Father, just help us to seek our identity and our purpose from you. Help them to be open. Father, may your Spirit just engulf them, and they would feel the presence of your power in their life, that they would come to know you more. Father, as we gather around these communion tables, may we remember that we have a God who reaches down into our brokenness, into our loss, into our vanity, and offers us so much more. That when we're broken, Jesus meets us in that brokenness and restores us in a right relationship. That when we feel like we are empty, that we are poured out, that our life is of no value, that Jesus poured out His life to give us an opportunity to experience a life that is more full and more plentiful. So, Father, just help us to remember that, to be able to celebrate our value, our hope, our purpose, our identity and a God who loves us, and a God who cares for us. Father, just draw us closer to you. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.